All right, well, this is Aaron Squire, and I'm here with Froatsylvania from the Shardcast, Hex Shardcast. Today we're going to be talking about some Hex news, of course. We'll go over a deck doctor. We'll be talking about a Sapphire Wild ramp deck, and then we'll be also talking about the Hex CCG Procast and some changes that are going to be happening there. So stick around. So first off, I'll just go ahead and introduce my good friend here. This is Froatsylvania, who does the Hex Shardcast. He's done a lot of casts, kind of taking over for Soldak. Soldak is kind of taking a break for a little while. He may come back later, but we'll see what happens in the future. But Froats has done a lot of good stuff for the community. So,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Go ahead and tell me a little bit about Hex Shardcast, Froats.
All right. Well, again, thanks for having me on, Aaron Squire. I appreciate it. The Hex Shardcast sort of started out as a kind of a way to get into Hex and kind of learn the meta and how the cards worked. It was originally going to be a two-man team, as you could see by the very first Shardcast that happened. We kind of stumbled upon a game that was on a recorded Twitch by a fellow by the name of Aaron Squire. Found his game. It was broadcasted quite well, so we decided to pick it up and try to cast over as just a kind of just trial method. And turns out we tweeted it out there, and this Aaron Squire character decided to retweet it for us, and that's kind of how it got started. Kaga kind of dropped off after the first episode or two, and I kept the ball rolling, and that's where we're at today.
Right. Yeah, I do remember watching that first Shardcast and seeing the back and forth between you two, and it's unfortunate that Kaga had to go a different direction, but of course, he has to follow his own path to figure out what he wants to do for the community as well. I believe he's a level 1 judge, right?
He is. He's a level 1 DCI judge.
Yeah, that's correct. So he's more on the rules side of things. He's actually written some articles, at least one article that I know of, for Hex CCG Pro. So we're really glad to have him on.
Mm-hmm.
So just ask you a couple of questions real quick. What made you want to do shoutcasting for Hex? Like, what really drove you to get in there and want to do this? Like, beyond, is there anything beyond what you just said, or?
Oh, sure. What the reason why I got into it was, I remember I played Magic for maybe about 8 to 12 months. I was very much a casual player, and Kaga got me to watch the cast of the Magic Championship, the World Championships for Magic.
Right.
And when they were casting it, as a casual player, it was hard for me to even follow. And I realized, and pardon my puppy whining in the background, I realized that I wanted to do something that even the casual player could follow, and maybe even learn something from. So I decided to take it one step further and say, well, what if I try to do this almost like a play-by-play sports thing?
Right.
And that's kind of where it started. And I've tried to improve on it each and every video, to get feedback from not only my viewers, but even the people I've been casting their games.
Right.
And that's kind of where we're at now. I do know that I want to implement a few more different features in Shardcast in the future. But at this point in time, I'm focused on giving good play-by-play, maybe a little bit of analysis, even though I'm not that great of a player yet, and sort of teach a thing or two to my viewers.
Right, and I did notice that when you were first going over some of your first videos, when it is that you do your Shardcast, what you do is you talk about the card, you explain what it does, and that really is going to be very helpful for these new players. I, in particular, am really bad about that, and so I've tried to pick up a little bit more habit of that. Another player that's really good at doing that is Hex Havoc. I'm sure a lot of people have seen him, and he, for quite a while, was explaining every single card that he would draw in his opening hand. He actually would get to the point where I'd say probably for every minute that his opponent spent, he probably spent about 3 minutes. And so because he was talking to his audience, very good player and very good knowledgeable knowledge base there. So moving on. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say just real quickly, I try to, with my wife being a very new player to the game, I try to keep her in mind whenever I'm doing the casts.
Right.
That way, if you have a brand new player who's just surfing Twitch out there and falls upon one of these, they can maybe be able to pick it up and follow along. So.
Right, for sure. And also it can be difficult to see some of the text on the cards, or know, like, when you're casting it, like what it's going to do exactly. Like if it says it's going to create 3 3 beasts, or it just says beasts or something, right? On
Yeah.
like Crash the Beast, it just says you're gonna make 3 beasts. What are those? What do they have abilities?
Right.
What's their power and toughness? You don't know
Mhm.
those type of things. So moving on, what kind of features do you hope to get implemented for esports in the Hex scene in the future? Like, what could Cryptozoic do to majorly like improve the quality of your Shardcast, make it a lot easier for you to do stuff?
Well, the observe mode would be number one.
Mm-hmm.
Having to almost always do a recorded cast, because doing a live cast is so difficult. In the fact that, as I've said to a couple of my people who are asking how they get into Shardcast, we'll get in that minute, is it's so tough to see if you have it shrunken down to like a corner of someone's Twitch feed. It's hard to see. Like you said, it's hard to read the card text.
Right. It can
If I
be.
could get an observe mode, I could blow up the hex screen to the full screen
Right.
and cast from there.
Right. And
So that would easily be number one.
we've seen some of this in like other games. Like I was a big Smite player, and there's like an observation mode where it is that you can do a lot of things, different camera angles and stuff, which is important for that type of game. But for this game, seeing both players' hands and doing things like that would definitely be a plus for casters, as well as maybe having recorded games. So that way you could go back and rehash them and not have to go out and figure out whose Twitch feed to go to and do all that.
Oh, definitely. As a pretty avid poker player, being able to go back through and analyze each and every play and know what your opponent was doing at the same time is huge. And I
Right.
think it translates really well to the TCGs.
Right. I agree. So moving just that we had like a close segue there, but we'll just segue into some of the different things. Like, let's say we have some new Twitch people out there, and they're saying,
Okay.
you know what, this guy Froatsylvania, I want to get on his stuff because I've had some exciting games. What types of things can they do to help you out, Froats, to like make sure that they get on there?
Well, it's quite simple actually. I'm not one of those who goes out and looks for the best game or like that. I'm trying to get all sorts of players, all sorts of decks, all sorts of point of views on Shardcast. So to be able to just get on there, first and foremost, when you're doing a cast, just make sure I can grab the big bulk of the play screen. That way I have no reason to crop it, that sort of thing. And let me know you've done it. Shoot me a line on Twitter, shoot me a message on my YouTube channel. Just let me know it's out there.
Right.
And by doing that, we can get you on. Now, I
Right.
think what the major problem a lot of people are doing is they've just started streaming, they've got their Twitch up and running, they've got the layout they want, but they aren't archiving their videos.
Oh yeah.
There's a default setting when you first start doing your Twitch streams. It doesn't archive your videos for you.
Right.
So
exactly.
if you go into the settings and go to where it says for your videos, there's a setting there that automatically archives each stream you do. And that way I can go out there later and pick it up and record from there.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about that before the show even started. Like with Twitch accounts, before it was automatically set so that it would auto archive. Of course, that occupies a lot of hard drive space.
Right.
And so, very intelligently, the people over at Twitch turn that off when you start your new account. So you want to have that on. And I'm just going to chime in here and say, for me, when it is that someone follows me, I go and I actually go out and I look at those accounts. And if you don't have anything, if you have no videos, no backdrop, nothing is really added, all I'm thinking to myself is this person is someone that goes and watches videos, so there's no reason for me to follow them. But I do want to support the rest of the Hex community, and so like if you are doing that, make sure that you have stuff that notifies me or other people what you do on Twitch. I mean, it's very, very important to have that stuff out there. And also, maybe have some of those links to other, like your own personal website or a YouTube or whatever else.
Sure.
So I think that we'll just kind of wrap things there and go into some of the news of the day. So some exciting stuff is happening here. So we're going to start off. So if you go to the Kickstarter website, it's just redirecting you over here to the Hex website. And I think that's the way that they're going with a lot of this stuff. So this is Shaggy talking again, and first and foremost, he's talking about the client and some of the different improvements that they're making. We've obviously had some problems with the tournaments recently. Everyone's really excited to play sealed because it's much more open format, especially for newer players. It allows you to have, it's a different skill set to play sealed, and so it's unfortunate that we're having some problems with that, but that's not like unforeseen, because every time they implement a new feature, it's going to have a lot of bugs to work out. Anything you want to chime in there, Froats?
Well, yeah, I think when it comes down to it, we've gotten such great features thus far and such great gameplay from Hex this early in the alpha. You almost get caught up and forget we're still in alpha.
Right.
So when they release new features like that, we are bug testers. We're not, Hex players. We're alpha testers for Cryptozoic.
Right.
So when a new feature like the sealed deck's introduced, we'd love to dive in and be, doing all the sealed deck tournaments, but we have to remember our job's not to play. Our job's to test. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you're going through this, not to get frustrated, but realize that you're helping to make Hex become, the greatest online TCG out there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before with some of the other digital TCGs we've got going on, whereas that they released out of beta and went open beta, or they went to a live game and didn't have the features that we have in Hex, which is pretty crazy. I mean, some of them don't have chat, some of them don't have they didn't have draft play or sealed play or things like that. And this game, hopefully by the end of our open beta, we're going to have an actual PvE dungeon, and we're going to get to see some of that content. I mean, that's a big draw for a lot of people. So, but every time we implement a new feature, there's going to be some growing pains. We're going to have to hit that ice, break it up, and then hopefully we'll chug through it and things will get better and better. Again, just a reminder to everybody that is playing on the client right now, we're still working on hardware that isn't necessarily meant to carry this many people. So just keep that in mind. So moving on, they're also talking about how some of the inner workings of Cryptozoic actually work, which is really interesting to me because it gives us a window into the business aspect of running such a large company. Remember that when we're talking about Hex, it's not the only game that they've got.
Right.
They've got a lot of other board games that they're releasing all the time and doing other things. So there's a lot of other stuff that's going on with them, as well as the stuff that's going on with the game. So they're talking here about the set 3 and how it is that they've got their R&D department already working on set 3. And for some people, you might be asking, why are they working on set 3 when set 1 hasn't even been successfully fully implemented in the alpha client? And the reason why is because that's how it works in the CCG world. I don't know if some of you knew this, but like Magic the Gathering is like 2 or 3 blocks ahead of stuff that hasn't even been released yet. So they've thoroughly tested a lot of that stuff, and eventually that's how it's going to be with Hex too. We're going to have 2 or 3 blocks. They'll be ahead. They're testing and to make sure it is that when we get our finalized product, that it will be something that's not overpowered, and they won't have to ban cards or do things like that. Froats, you have anything to chime in there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you entirely in the fact that I think we are quick to point out that, hey, this card seems a little overpowered, or I don't understand why this card is set, when I can only assume when Cryptozoic's doing this, they're looking at all 3 sets as one big block. So it wouldn't do them any good to finalize set 1 only to handcuff themselves and say, okay, we have to make set 2 chime with it, but do something totally new. So it's almost like they make one big X set and then carve it into 3 pieces.
Right.
So I think when people look at it and go, well, we're in alpha now. Why are you already working 3 sets ahead? Well, they have to in order to make it a balanced game.
Right. And they also talk about making sure that they're using the most specialized people for the specialized job. I remember when I was at Gen Con and I talked to one of the people that was working on the game. He talked about how he isn't really in the coding. He's done a couple of coding things, and so like they have people that are jack of all trades or have a little bit of knowledge, but you want your people that are good at getting the code and doing the bugs. You want those guys doing that. You want your R&D people that have a lot of knowledge of card games doing that. You want to min-max that team as much as possible, but still have some wiggle room when you want to move people around to help out with other areas. So it's a lot of stuff going on, I'm sure, over there at Cryptozoic.
Sure.
So we'll just move on. The next major thing is the bug sheet that they've just implemented. So this is going to be a form that you'll be able to fill out. I believe it's on this website here. So if you go over here, there's an official thing, and this is where Shaggy's has mentioned this, and it's got the bug report form. Now, the most important thing that this does for the game is this standardizes our bug reports, which makes it a lot easier for them to take care of that stuff. It also has down here like media links and other stuff, forum URLs. It has a whole bunch of different nicely formatted things. And as someone that's worked on like computer help desks and stuff, this is just how a lot of that stuff works. I mean, we basically put things into a format so that way we can quickly and easily assess things and get them taken care of. Froats, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great step in the right direction for Hex. It was very difficult because you wanted to report bugs, but at the same time, you didn't want to report the same bug for the 4th time.
Right.
And the forums are, as much as it pains me to say it, very difficult to search for stuff. If you don't know, I mean, using their search feature is difficult. So putting it in one centralized location makes it very easy to go find it. If you're trying to build a deck for, say, a tournament, and you need to know which cards are still bugged and what they are, how they're bugged, you get one central location. So I think it's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing there. So moving on to the next final item that they had to present here, we're talking about some of the moderation that they're doing on their forums, and they're actually polling the community. And we've seen this before. Obviously, we had Shaggy was a big part of the community before he got picked up to work for Cryptozoic. If you're looking to work for Cryptozoic or do other things with them, this would be a good way to get your foot in the door and start getting your feet wet by becoming a forum moderator. So they have a bunch of different things that they'll be doing, and they'll be appointing people in the next month. Now keep in mind that this may mean that you may not be able to play competitive Hex because you'll be employed by Cryptozoic, and it may mean that you may have some other things related to this where you won't be able to do certain things, but you'll probably get promos and other stuff as well. You should be able to play like casual things or casual tournaments, I would say, but there's a chance that the super competitive tournaments you may be exempt from. Of course, you'll still be able to play the game, but as a forum mod, it's a really good way to show some interest in getting into the company if you want to do that, or it's a good way just to give back and get in there. There's a lot of people on the forums. Unfortunately, I don't have access to the Cryptozoic forums at work, so I'm not on them as much as I am on the Reddit forums. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. So, Froats, what do you think about this?
Well, I think it's a great thing. I am interested to see how many mods they go at first, because I would hate to see that we have 4 or 5, policemen for a small town of 200, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
It's one of those things where it's a great opportunity if you have the time and the interest in doing it, and I think it lends itself to something much bigger. In the fact that they mentioned it briefly, I think it says they have Twitch. They're signed for Twitch moderators as well.
Right.
When you go down to it, Cryptozoic is moving towards such a online and electronic based format that the forums is their press release. So to have that name out there, like I said, Shaggy is doing a wonderful job as the community manager, but he's going to need help. He's going to need help.
He does have William to back him up. I mean, William is also a really good guy. I've met him in person as well, and he does a really good job as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, so those positions are open. Another good way to get into the company and to, especially if you're looking at trying to get into the game community. Let's say in the future you don't even start work. You don't want to work for Cryptozoic. Well, it still is something you can add to your little brag sheet of job experience in the game community. As a forum moderator, more and more we're seeing people that are getting picked up in the game community in general to become these forum moderators or basically community managers, which is like an unsung hero in that community, and also one of the lowest paying positions that you can get as a in the gaming community, probably alongside game tester and bug, like the regular game tester, bug masher type of person.
Now, I do want to add one thing real quick before we move on from here. I was reading back over and also see on your screen. I'm not sure. Is this going to be a paid position?
No, it won't be a paid position likely.
Okay.
Very likely it won't be a paid position, but depending on how they view it, if you are working for the company, there's a chance that, like, for instance, Shaggy had to drop out of the tournament. As some people know, the one that was the TCG, what was it called? Tournament of Streamers that was run by Soldak. And the reason why is because he had applied to be the community manager. And so during that time period, when he's being considered, he's not allowed to do anything competitive because then it could look, what do they call that? It could look like favoritism if like he were to do really well in the tournament or something like to that extent. So
yeah.
So moving on. So we saw that. There's the bug spreadsheet. That's the deck we're going to do later. Just real quick footnote here. Hex CCG Pro is moving away from doing the video cast. I know you guys love them, but they are a logistical, I wouldn't say a nightmare, but they're difficult to do. And John has come up against some time constraints recently, and so he's decided to move to a podcast. Now, a lot of you might be maybe fans of the Threshold podcast, which I am as well. So they've actually kind of talked to the Threshold people. I think there's a thing down here where they talk about it. No, it doesn't look like it's here. But basically, it's not going to be that much different than the show was, really. It's going to be us talking about different things. Of course, I won't be on it for a little while because I've got other things to attend to with a personal family business. But other than that, it should be a pretty good show. Froats, are you looking forward to watching this? Or
Definitely. And as soon as he announced, as soon as he mentioned it on Twitter the other day, I believe it was Wednesday, I immediately signed up for my support because the banter going back and forth between him and Threshold podcast is it looks like they're almost going in two separate directions to almost envelop all sides of Hex, which is huge. I know that the video cast was usually done late at night, and it was tough for me to be able to get on and watch all the time. With it being an audio podcast, you don't necessarily have to watch what's going on, and some of us can actually listen to it while we're at work instead of having to actually view it. So this will be a much easier format for me to actually get my information. So I wish them all the best of luck, and hope it works out really well for them.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it'll be really nice because you can just subscribe to it on your phone, get it auto-downloaded or something, and then like it's there for you, and then you get the new episode, and you don't even have to worry about it. Right. No fuss, no muss, and then we can do it on our own schedule, and we don't have to do it necessarily live.
Exactly.
So that will segue us into this deck doctor. It looks like we've got about 34 minutes to do this, and we're just going to look it over here and see what Irish Battousai is, the user or the handle person. The person, I guess. I should say the person that sent me this deck. Picked this deck over some others. I had answered somebody back, and then I also got Masterfet sent me another deck. I'm one of my biggest fans. But I just did one of his decks last week. So moving through this, we've got Howling Brave, Fist of Brigadon, some Crash the Beast, some of my favorites, right? You see me play a lot of these. Root Dancer, Sensei. Yesterday, kind of an interesting choice. Oracle Song, Research Adept, Command Tower. So what I'm seeing that this person is looking to try to do, he's also got 25 shards in here, is some sort of ramp mixed with Sapphire. Is that what you think's going on here?
Well, I think that's what he's trying to do, because anytime you see the combination of Howling Brave and Chlorophyllia, you automatically think ramp. That's all those cards are designed to do.
Right.
But when you think of Sapphire, you think of control in mid to end game. So this is a very interesting pairing for me. Yeah.
Right. So let's look at some of the different clunky factors to this deck right now. So we've got Fist. Fist has got the 6 threshold. Now that's not going to be incredibly difficult to get to, as you do have the Howling Brave, and you do have the Chlorophyllia, which will help you. But chances are you're not going to be casting Fist at 6 resources. You're going to be casting them at 8 or 9 at best. So this is super clunky to choose to play in this deck. Really, really difficult to play. We've got Yesterday in this deck, and let's just think about what we could bounce with this. Bouncing tokens is pretty bad. Bouncing Root Dancer does virtually nothing for us. Sensei is pretty good because he cantrips. We can put him back into play and draw cards. Adept could do that, but we're only playing 2 command towers, and we need both of those. We need one of those to be in play to get his effect. We can also bounce Pack Raptor and put him back into play, but I guess that throws more Pack Raptors. We're only drawing 1 card a turn, so we have to keep that in mind too. Pack Raptor's historically not great in the ramp deck archetype. He is only playing 2 Chlorophyllia, which could be a dead card in the late game, but It's just very, very unfocused. And you can even see this in the mana curve or the resource curve, the CMC, converted CRC, converted resource.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just kind of is up and down and all over the place. So we're just going to cut some things out here just right off the bat. So we're definitely cutting this fist. That needs to come out. If we're going to play these this dual sharded deck, we want some different 6-drops to play. So we're going to pull him right away.
I agree.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, if you're going to ramp and do the typical Howling Brave to Chlorophyllia to Fist on turn 3, he's not playing 4 Chlorophyllias. You just mentioned he's only playing 2.
Right.
Which means the odds of you pulling both of those are slim. And he was only playing 1 copy of Fist. Right. So I think we have to find some sort of balance between, if we're going to do this sort of deck, is between balance and tempo. And I think, yeah, I agree with you in cutting Fist immediately. I would rather put a Battle Beetle or a Scroll Titan there. I agree with getting rid of Pack Raptor. Or if you're going to go Pack Raptor, you have to change the mode of the deck entirely.
So we're going to hold on to Pack Raptor for a minute here.
Okay.
We'll probably get rid of him, but we're going to hold on to him because of some of the things I'm going to suggest doing with this deck. So we talked about this a little bit before. We've got Yesterday in here, and so one of the things is that we can do in Sapphire is tempo stuff or bounce stuff to our hands. And so I think I kind of want to go in that direction. And because we're going to try to ramp in this deck, I'm thinking we're going to try to play the Squirrel Titan in here, which I think could be some Flava Flav for this deck going forward.
That's not a bad idea.
What do you think about that idea?
Oh, I agree with you completely. That will work tremendously because that gives you some removal too.
Right, exactly. So by playing that card, by playing the Pack Raptor, it really makes me want to get rid of these Crash Beasts. Great card, but it's got the dual threshold, which makes it a little bit too prohibitive for us. So we're probably gonna go ahead and just pull these out of here, which also helps us clean up this 3-point range.
Right.
The Root Dancer is pretty good as well, but I think we can safely pull those as well right here.
And I'm going to agree with you with the Root Dancer. And the reason why I say that is you're going to get all of the pump action you need from your Pack Raptors themselves.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's just add that.
I mean, we're definitely adding. We're definitely also. I mean, if we're going with the bounce, we're definitely adding Buccaneer to this. So he's going to take up more 3-point slots, anyways. So right now, we're going to take the Oracle song down to 2. Hey, what's going on, X Twin? If you have any questions, go ahead and ask me in the chat. Or if you have any questions, this is Froatsylvania. If you're just joining us, he is the Shardcast creator, producer, president.
All of the above.
All of the above. So if you have any questions to him about Shardcast, you can go ahead and ask away as we're puttering around with this deck type. We're going to take Yesterday probably down, maybe down to 2, something like that.
Yeah, if we're going to keep Yesterday, I don't want that many copies in there. I like Menacing Gralk rather than Yesterday. Because I'd rather have all my Raptors up there swinging than them bouncing in my hand.
Right, and I had actually played a deck very similar to this one before as well. But, I mean, I pulled the ramp elements because it just wasn't happening for me. So let's go over to our card pool and see what kind of things we could throw in here. So we're going to click on PvP, come down here, do the no color, the Sapphire, and the Wild.
Okay.
Unlike last week when I forgot to click on one of the colors. That was pretty embarrassing.
That will limit a little bit.
Not so good. Oakhenge, not a bad choice for this deck. I mean, it's going to help us get to some of those cards to bounce things, or it's going to get us to... it's going to get us to those pieces. It's a 1-drop, which is also good. It's it's a basic action, so we have to play it during our main phase, so that's somewhat problematic. Benjamin's not really going to happen for us. Mentalist maybe, but probably not. I really want things with come into play abilities. Go ahead.
I was almost like Incantation Savagery in here with all your Pack Raptors. I almost like that card. I know it's a little narrow, and that's like one of those, if we have a spot at the end, maybe throw one in. Just something keep it back of the head.
My biggest problem with Incantation of Savagery, this is another token card. This screams to me, you will play me with some bunnies tokens, because you need to play multiple dudes, and we aren't really doing that. Most of our cards in the deck play one dude. They don't play multiple. And we also just got...
out.
And we just got rid of Crash Beast, so that really, this card is less viable in my opinion. for this
Okay,
type of deck.
I will agree with you there. I will defer.
I mean, it could happen, but chances are, that's my other big problem. Everyone knows incantations are dead cards until they actually trigger and activate.
Yeah.
So you basically gave your opponent a dead card for, maybe a couple of turns, which could be all they need.
I will definitely agree with you there. You get no complaint out of me.
So we're gonna put the 4 Squirrel Titan in here. That's gonna be really exciting for us. Play all these Squirrel Titans in this deck. Let's see. We need things with come into play abilities. That's the biggest thing. Now Mimic, it could be okay in this deck as a one of. The biggest problem with Mimic is if I return it to my hand, it doesn't turn back into Mimic, because what happens is the way this card is triggered, you cast the Mimic, and then the basic action card goes to your graveyard, and the card you Mimic stays in play. And then when the card gets bounced, it goes to your hand, and you can't re-mimic something else. It's not like Magic the Gathering in that sense, where you can bounce a lot of the cards that are very similar to this because they are troops. This is not a troop. So that's why this is maybe a one of, if at all.
Well, I'm going to agree with you for the fact that half the time you may be mimicking someone else's cards, and they may not be a Wild or Sapphire Threshold. It may
Apparently
be a
I'm having trouble with putting things on sideboards right now. I think that they've had some problems with the website, so hopefully they'll get that ironed out at some point in time. So I'm not sure if there's a gem we can throw in this Eldritch Dreamer that has a come into play ability or not. I can't see the gems for some reason now. I'm not thinking that there is.
No, because you've got your Flight with blue, you've got your
The only
draw
thing you
with
could
blue.
do is give something like +3/+3, because you can give it the power and toughness of the Eldritch Dreamer to something else temporarily, but that just seems underwhelming to me.
You could give it Spell Shield, because it's green.
Yeah, but that doesn't fit in with our theme of the deck.
Right.
So.
What about the Dandelion Sprite?
So the Dandelion Sprite is decent, but we have nothing to buff it with right now, as the deck stands. So it's really not really a good play for us. Plus we really need 3 threshold. We need the 3 threshold to get it to come online. Otherwise, it's a 1/2 that doesn't do anything and is easily killed.
Okay.
It's also a really not great body.
Yeah, because it can't block. It's
Yeah,
only
it
got 2
can't
toughness.
really. It's not really a blocker. Survival of Fittest. Yeah,
Gives us more
maybe.
removal.
Yeah, I mean, it's more removal. It's decent. Let's see. We got Steadfast, draw a card, discard a card. Yeah, I don't know if we need the Stargazer in there. Phoenix Guard, maybe like a 2 of. Could be interesting to give like our stuff flying. Because we are bouncing stuff, so if it didn't have flying before, we can bounce it maybe later. Get the flying on it. Battle Beetle, we're going to throw like 2 of these in here for now, but I'm not sure. This is a little bit better, more viable to throw that gem on, because a 5/5 a little bit better for us. Of course, we're going to put the obligatory 4 Shards of Fate in the deck. That just has to happen.
All right.
Time Ripple, we're going to probably start off with... Okay, apparently I can't put Time Ripple in the deck. Maybe I might be at capacity. I wonder if the deck has... I've been having some problems with this website, so you guys might have to bear with me. I might have to reload the page. Let's see. I'm guessing it's just going to keep giving me the error. No, it didn't give it to me that time. Okay, good.
There we go.
Excellent, Pinky. Excellent.
All right, so where are we at now? We're at 64, I think it said?
Yeah, we're like 64, but we'll pare it down.
Okay.
I'm not too worried. This is my typical, like, how I build decks is I basically throw all the stuff I'm thinking about around, and then I look at the curve, and I look at different things, and I start weeding stuff out. So it's taken me quite a while. Like, what I used to do in my early Magic days is I actually used to take my entire collection and just put it on my bed, which, it wasn't, like, overwhelming. So it was like maybe like 60 or 70 different types of cards, and I had them all stacked up, and I just look at all of them and try to figure something out. And that's why it's really good to have cards memorized, so you don't have to do all that, and you can just go search through and be like, yeah, that's the one I want, because I knew what I wanted to begin with. So, and also working off of concepts like what we're doing right now. Wizard of the Silver Talon might be serious for this deck. I mean, he comes
Yeah, I
into
was going to say
play,
the same thing.
throws that thing. He only costs that one threshold. Seems really good.
I actually agree with you. That might actually be a great fit for this deck. Because it also helps pump what you've got on the board.
Right.
Flight's a good evasion.
If you're in Sapphire, I think like you pretty much have to have 2 Countermagic minimum in a deck, and 2 on the sideboard. You could go up to 4 in this type of a deck, maybe. We already pulled that Root Dancer. Zume's really not going to do very much for us. We've got the Senseis already. Technical Genius. The biggest problem with Technical Genius is if you're going to play this card, you probably need to have like 20 artifacts in the deck. Because and play an artifact champion, well, I'm not thinking of Techno Genius. I'm thinking about the one that comes into play and you draw a card if there's an artifact. You really need, here it is, Research Adept. For this guy, you really need those artifacts. And with only 2 in the deck, he's almost never going to trigger. And now you're paying 4 for this substandard body.
Yeah,
really
it's only 2/3.
Really, really bad. Devoted Emissary. I'm not sure. Let's go up. So we're playing basically a deck that's going to bounce a lot of things. I'm trying to remember Devoted Emissary.
Devoted Emissary.
I'll just type it in. Devote. Yeah, we hadn't gotten down to this guy yet. Right, yeah, we can play this guy maybe as a 1 or a 2 of. We've already got like a playset of Buccaneer in the deck, but yeah, he could also work in this deck quite well because he gives us more bounce conditions. This actually might be better than playing a lot of the instant or the quick action spell that bounces stuff, because that makes us pay more. This guy doesn't do that. So good call. I agree. No cost increase is good.
It'd be interesting if we see that played more. I don't think I've seen that played in any of my Shardcasts thus far.
Well, he's a nice body at 4/3 for 4 is decent. I mean, it's respectable, especially out of Sapphire. The biggest problem is that we have Buccaneer, and he's a lot more utility. Plus, this guy only works on my troops, not my opponent's stuff. So Buccaneer is a much better tempo type of card, whereas this guy is much more of a kind of like what we're doing is kind of combo-y. Kind of. It's more like aggro and some combo elements with stuff that's going to get us a lot of value. Shrewd Manipulation.
Now we're going to put a secret. We put a secret lab in here.
Absolutely not. We're in Sapphire. We have plenty of card draws. It stands.
Just making sure. I see that card so many different decks. It's like, and most of them are Sapphire decks. I don't personally like the card. I know there's a place for it, but since they've changed it to be a 4 cost, I think it's too much.
It's not. It's really not. So like if you were playing like some sort of combo deck that doesn't have access to Sapphire, that's a card you kind of have to play because you are going to have to burn through your deck. It allows you to throw away those shards and do things. It's not. The problem with Secret Lab is that it's not card advantage, and I've said this over and over again. It is deck manipulation. So you're not actually gaining a card whenever you use it. And many times I'll be sitting and I'll be like, I have a Fist of Brigadon and like another random 6-drop in my hand. I can't even play this. I can't even use it because if I draw another Fist, then I've just thrown away a 6-drop. One of these 6-drops has to go, and now I'm one less 6-drop that I could have drawn. It's one of those where like you use it when you draw extra shards or like that extra Chlorophyllia at the end of like the ramp deck. Then it's really good, but like. In a lot of other situations, it's not. Or maybe it could have made its way into some sort of Inspire deck, but Inspire is just really, it's still not a great place to be competitive right now.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut on the Inspire. I love that ability.
I like the abilities on it, but it's so clunky to use. It's really difficult to use well. Jadim, we're probably not going to play him just because he's too prohibitive for us. And the payoffs for playing him is, I mean, it is. I guess we can bounce stuff. We could play like a 1-of, but it's probably better for us to play Gralk because Gralk is going to win the game outright if we have the right board state. Jadim is going to sit on the board and we give our opponent a full turn to deal with him. So I don't think Jadim really fits too well. You could play him in here, and he might do okay for you. But if I'm going to pay 3 of the same resource or need to have 3 threshold up, I'm going to play Gralk. We've seen Gralk just dominate lately. That's why Sapphire, Mono Sapphire is just picked up in popularity so
here
much.
Around ramp and your go-to card. I agree with you with the Gralk here.
Yeah, the Gralk is we could probably play up to a 2 of, depending on how risky you want to be. Just because we're in 2 shards. That's like the biggest thing. But bouncing him, double bouncing him, we've seen that like win games all the time. Another interesting one we could consider is Honeycap, because we can bounce him and then he gets bigger. It's another one we could consider, but he probably won't make the deck. I'm just going to put one here. I can always up it later, but I don't think we're going to play him. But, you know, I always like to keep my options open. Okay,
now,
so
the thing I don't like about the Honeycap personally is he can become a monster, but he's got no evasion whatsoever.
yeah, he's got no evasion. He doesn't come with Crush to, you know, crush over some damage. You know, Crush is going to deal that extra damage that doesn't get absorbed by something's toughness. So let's see what this guy's doing. He says exhaust a troop. No, that guy's tried playing this guy, just wasn't happening for me.
What about
this guy?
The skirmish? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Might be okay. Yeah, we'll pull one. Skirmisher? What are you saying?
So I was saying, what about the skirmisher with the flight drum in it?
So it also doesn't really do what we're looking for to do in this deck. Skirmisher, that's a different deck that we would be looking at. I wonder if we cast this guy. No. So even if you bounce this guy, it says at the end of turn, shuffle this troop into your deck. So so technically it's not a troop when it's in your hand. So you probably shouldn't shuffle it back in. But if you did bounce it, yeah. So you have to shuffle it for it to get that ability. It could be interesting, but probably it's too janky, too clunky to use with the Wildeboar. It has to get shuffled in to be that 8/8. I have a different deck that actually uses Wildeboar. Where is the other one? Peak is another one we could play in here.
Oh yeah, that would be a great card for this deck actually.
You know, unfortunately, Peak is a little bit broken right now. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I saw it break the other day, and I was heartbroken because he ended up going. I forget if he's going for his. I think he was trying to pull Gralk out. I think it was. And they all just end up as shards.
So this is what we ended up with. We have 87 cards. Of course, we can get rid of some shards right away. This is what our curve looks like right now. Of course, we've got to cut 27 cards right now out of the deck. So we're going to be finding the different things that really probably don't work for us. A lot of times we'll go down to 1 of, and then after that we just get rid of the cards. So on a lot of this stuff. So first things first, let's take our shards down. So we've got like 24-ish shards. We might be able to go down to 23, but I'm not sure. I know I have 4 Shards of Fate, so this will give me more of an accurate card count. 82 cards. So I want to keep this Squirrel Titan in here. Howling Brave is somewhat questionable to me to play in this deck. Let's look at the 1-drop range first. So we've got the Howling Brave, the Oakhenge. What else have we got? I think that's it. Oh, we've got the Pack Raptors.
That's right. I don't know if I even like Howling Brave here. I think you have to go either Howling Brave or Oakhenge. Howling Brave. You can have both. I don't like Howling Brave, I don't think. Not with what we're doing with the deck.
The biggest problem is, though, we have to get to the Squirrel Titan. So it's like, how many Chlorophyllia do we use? We've only got, in our 6-point range, we've got 6 cards, 4 of which are Squirrel Titan, and the other 2 are Battle Beetles. So it really just depends. This does give us another body, but if we can't really, I mean, you bounce a Howling Brave, it does nothing for you. We have nothing to buff the Howling Brave to make him better later.
See, I would... That's tough. I know it's hard to throw away resources with like Howling Brave, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm kind of not seeing it as well, but that's also going to make us dump Chlorophyllia, so actually I think we have to keep it, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's going to be a little bit clunky for this deck, but I think we have to keep it so we can get to play those 6 drops. I mean, that's unfortunate, but that's what it's going to be. So we'll keep that. We'll keep the Oakhenge as well, and we'll keep... the peak. So because we're doing all this ramping, we're probably just going to go ahead and go away from Pack Raptor, I think.
I agree, because then you're actually filling your deck back up and you can't get to your big creatures you're trying to get to now.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think you can have Oakhenge and Pack Raptor unless you're playing a...
Right, exactly. We're trying to play Oakhenge to get to the Squirrel Titan or this Battle Beetle. And if we don't get there, then that's a huge problem for us. And Pack Raptor is going to make it too clunky for us to do so. So
it also thins out your peak when you play, too.
Right. So that already takes us down to 78. We've only got to cut another 18 cards here. So we're actually doing really good. I think we can go down safely to 1 Emissary as another bounce effect, and right now I'm going to take Time Ripple down to 1. Time Ripple is really nice because I can do it in my opponent's end step, but that's probably the only reason why it's nice. It's still going to add 1 to the cost, but that's okay because we're ramp. Buccaneer does the same thing. So we're, because we're ramp, this gives us versatility in the deck. We can bounce our opponent's stuff, or we could bounce our own stuff depending on the board state. If we need to draw extra cards with Sensei or something like that.
So what are we putting in the Battle Beetle, since we're sitting there looking at it?
So I don't know if I can socket. Okay, I can socket it once in here. So we're definitely putting in the one where it adds 5/5.
Okay,
so
I agree.
Wherever it is, this one I think. No, it's Spell Shield. Empowerment. Yeah. So this was bugged for a while where they were keeping their power and toughness. They've fixed it, I believe, so it should be working properly now. I'm still on the fence of whether I want 2 Battle Beetles or 1, so that may come later in the deck when we're making our decisions, making some cuts. Another thing that's going to be a big factor here is playing with these dual thresholds. When it's like a 5 cost like this yesterday, shouldn't be too bad, but if it's like a 2 cost for 2, then it gets a little bit clunky to play. Luckily our big drops, by the time I have 5 resources, hopefully 2 of them are this Sapphire. It's a little bit clunkier though when we're playing the Gralk though, but I think at 2 we should be fine. So, all right.
Now, I've got a question about the guard trainer. I'm thinking with the deck we've got, we're either going to play the champion that gives our troop flight or the guard trainer. I don't think we can do both.
Yeah, we haven't even chosen a champion, and he didn't have one originally on here, so we should probably do that at some point in time soon. Giving him flight would be pretty good with the champion, and instead of the guard trainer. It's not completely counterproductive to have the guard trainer and that guy because he's only going to give flight to like 2 troops all game.
Right.
Because it does cost 4 threshold or 4 charges. I'm sorry, to do that. It's not horrible. This is a buff though, so when we're talking about buffs, a lot of times we want to make sure that we're not playing too many. He does he has dual abilities though, because he does attack as a 2/2 and block, but he's not an amazing body. He also costs that 1 threshold, which we like, so we'll take him down to 1 here for now.
Okay.
Survival of the fittest. So Survival of the Fittest probably needs to come out because we're going to look at what trades we're going to make with it. And most of our stuff has really low back ends. So Survival of the Fittest is pretty bad for us in this deck. So we're going to go ahead and just cut that completely. We also have Countermagic, which, can also deal with things and Time Ripple. And we've got other things that tempo our opponent. So Survival of the Fittest is probably not the greatest for this deck. I feel strongly that this Silver Talon should be a 3 or a 4. This card is probably going to be really good at setting us up with Senators and it's little 1/1 flyers, and then putting lots of those dudes into play. I think that's going to be really good for us. Sensei, go ahead.
As I said, I think that's one of the most underplayed cards in the set right now. Is
right.
That Silver Talon card.
Well, it's hard because you look at it and you're like 4 for a 2/3 without reading it. But then you realize that, you put that Silver Talon into play, and now it's actually like a 3/4. But then that Silver Talon does damage 1 time, and he becomes because every time his guy does damage, he gets bigger, and so now he becomes a 3/4, and then after that he becomes a 4. I mean, he has the same effect as a Wild Root Dancer, as long as you're dealing damage, and his Silver Talon has evasion because it has flying. So with the bounce of this deck,
bullseye out there.
This guy's huge.
Yeah.
This guy's huge. So this definitely, if we're playing this guy, it's really good to give him flying as well. So yeah, I think we're going to do the flying champion,
Okay.
which is Feather Drifting Downriver, I believe.
I agree. I think that is correct.
Yeah, so Honeycap's just a little bit too cute for us, so we're probably just going to sack him here. We can do that pretty easily.
Yeah.
Mirror Knight's another buff, so we're going to take him down to 1 for now.
Now, is Mirror Knight is that actually the Mentalist? Now, if I'm reading that correctly? Which one is the Mirror Knight?
It's this guy I've got up right now. It's going to take a second to come up. Mirror Knight is, he gives it card draw.
Yeah, it's technically the Cerulean Mentalist, technically what that is.
Yeah.
It's actually
the only problem we might
Mentalist.
have looking at Silver Talon is if you look at these Senators, I believe, they cost 2. So they're not going to get inspired by our Mirror Knight, and they're not going to get inspired by our Guard Trainer. But, the flying troop probably doesn't need to get double flying. It's got high flying, High flying. Yeah. Yeah, taking me back to my...
All right, so where are we at now? How many cards have we got now?
We have 71 cards. So our curve is getting a little bit better for us. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how yesterday really does.
I still don't like yesterday.
What does yesterday really do for us? It's a quick action. We can replay cards for value with it. I mean, I can definitely go down to a 1-of and maybe keep it at a 1-of, maybe. Mimic is probably not the greatest for this deck, so we're going to go ahead and pull that for reasons that we discussed before. Let's see. Countermagic has I just can't get rid of. I can't go less than 2 of those.
That's a must card. If you're playing Sapphire at all, Countermagic you have to have in your deck.
Maybe go down 1 Oracle Song. Maybe.
What about dumping 2 of the Oakhenges? Because we have 4 of those.
We do have 4 of those. They are basic action speed. We do have other 1-drops we want to happen. We want to draw these cards, but drawing cards in general during our opponent's main phase is usually better. We want to be more in Sapphire anyways because... not main phase, but end step on that last one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we can definitely get rid of these for the reasons that we just talked about there, and that also helps us smooth out our curve just a little bit more. 7 cards. Right. We need to dump 7 more cards. We're probably going to end up getting rid of that yesterday. I can feel it. It's coming. I don't know that we need this Oracle Song, and here's the reason why. We've got Sensei in here to draw cards. We've got Peak, and we've got Oakhenge. So to make sure we just get our combo pieces together. We've also got 1 Mirror Knight, so I think we can deal without Oracle Song. Oracle Song is a lot better in like some sort of open board state. It's really just drawing you like 1 additional card because you're throwing away an Oracle Song and then you draw 2 cards. So you replace the Oracle Song card that you just used and you got a second card. So it's good. It's really good when you need to have that card advantage, but we want to get our stuff into play, and I don't think that this is going to do it for us. And we have other things that are giving us that card advantage anyways.
I agree.
Sensei even isn't really the greatest for this deck, so we might actually take that down to like 3.
I probably wouldn't disagree with that either, only because...
It's not a great body.
Yeah, I was going to say strictly card draw.
We don't really have... I mean, he's just basically pushing us through to get us to these nice 6-drops. The more and more I talk about the 6-drops, the more I don't think I can cut any of them. So I think we can go down safely to 3 of these. Because he's not going to do a lot for us. I'm even thinking about taking the Chlorophyllia down by 1 because it's a clunky card to play with a dual threshold. And it's it's a dead card if we draw it. Right. So we really don't want to dead draw this. And we've got plenty of other things to help us out. So let's say that we're in a position where we draw a 6-drop. Well, we have other things other than Chlorophyllia and Howling Brave to help us get those resources. And that would be in the form of course, we keep going back to this Peak. Peak is going to help us get those resources when we really need them. And so like that helps us not have to play too much Chlorophyllia in the deck.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one.
So let's see.
I still don't feel yesterday.
Yeah, I really think we have to dump it. I mean, this could still go in the sideboard, but this is just not. This is going to be underwhelming, most likely, because you're going to play it in your opponent's end step, and then you're going to replay a whole bunch of stuff, hopefully get value on the board. But, I mean, like, yeah. I mean, it could help you replay a Gralk or something, but yeah, it's probably not going to happen for you. Yesterday is seeing less and less play these days.
Yeah, I'd rather if you're gonna play a 5-drop there, I'd rather see Mastery Time than yesterday. It's got more value in it, but I don't think either one of those fit in this deck.
It's debatable. I think I can safely, maybe, I don't know if I want to go down. Gralk is just so dominant. It's like worth the risk to play this card. I mean, we've got 2 5-drops now, and they're both Gralk. I think we have to keep them. I don't think we can get rid of them. We need to get rid of 2 more cards.
2 more cards? What if you go down to two senseis?
Yeah, it'll probably be, we'll go down to 2 sensei and maybe like 2 Chlorophyllia.
We've only got the one copy of the
Time Ripple is another. I think I want to keep it though.
The Emissary. We only got one copy of the Emissary. Do we want to keep that in there?
Yeah, I think we want Emissary because our 4-point range is okay. I mean, like, so if we do get the draw hands where we're like 1, 2, 3 resources type of thing, we could have 6 resources on turn 3 open to us to play, to use to cast something. So, like, a lot of times these 4-drops, they like kind of get skipped over is what happens. But you still want to have them open in case it is that you get that dead draw and you're like, oh, I have this 6-drop. Oh, look, I top decked this 4-drop that I need to play because I didn't draw the ramp this time.
Yeah.
So it's still necessary,
like
but
we got what, 25 troops now?
Yeah. So we'll probably actually get rid of another Chlorophyllia here, and again, the same reason is for Peak, because Peak is in the deck, and we don't want to dead draw this
deck. Yeah.
Late
Peak is
in
so
the
much
day.
stronger in this deck.
And we aren't playing like crazy 6-drops. We're playing 6, which may sound like a lot, but it's really not like a ton of 6-drops. Compared to like the ramp deck that I was playing, because I was playing a Squirrel Titan, 4 Fists, a Battle Beetle, and like Argus and what's his name at one point. I was playing like I was playing almost 10.
It was ridiculous. You were playing Jadeem, you were playing Fist,
and I
you
was
were playing
playing
Battle
Jadeem.
Beetle.
Yeah, I was playing like
the
everything.
Eternal Guardian.
Yeah, Eternal Guardian was in there too. So I mean, like compared to like the typical ramp deck, I mean, again, I think that having Peak in here is going to help us smooth out our draws and get the things we need when we need them. And it's going to help us draw these Gralks when we need them.
Yeah, I see Peak getting more and more play in the upcoming
well, when they fix it especially.
Yes.
When it doesn't eat cards. So we also have 24 resources in here. So if we wanted to, we could take our resources down 1 and go back up on this Chlorophyllia, but I don't think we necessarily want to do that. Looking at the curve on the deck by itself, I don't think we can afford doing that.
No, I would agree with you if we were playing a monocolor, but because we need to get both thresholds up, Chlorophyllia only boosts the wild threshold. So I think I like where we're at. I think I like the curve.
Yeah, I think this is pretty good. So, of course, like a disclaimer on all the decks it is that I go over, that I have to say is like this, we are just working on the basic idea of the concept of the deck. You still have to play the deck and putter around with it and change some ratios and do some different things. Like the big one to me right now is figuring out, do we want 23 resources or do we want 24? Like that's the biggest decision right now in this deck. And figuring out what I would put in there. Like you could play Oakhenge instead of that extra resource. You could play another Chlorophyllia. I don't know that I would play another Countermagic, although I would put 2 in the sideboard or the reserves.
I'd probably put another.
But also playing the deck
Emissary
is going to help you figure out if you really want to play these buffs. This Mirror Knight and this Guard Trainer. Put Feather Drifting Downriver in here, and I think that we're pretty much there. If anybody has any questions for Froats before we go, let him know, because he's you know, the president of Shardcast. So El Presidente. While I'm looking up this this thing. Also, he doesn't have a catchphrase. So if you guys have a good catchphrase for Froats, you guys need to let him know. Like,
please. Yeah,
everyone needs catchphrases.
It's rough. I feel like Dick Clark leaving the $1,000 pyramid with my so long. All I need is the salute and I'm done.
Yep, that's how it is. Okay, if I do it like this, or actually if I just do no color, I'll be able to find it pretty easily. Yeah, I'll find you feather drifting downriver.
You know, that's funny. You sit there, I see the giant caterpillar. I want that card to be so good. I really do want that card
It's
to
good
work.
in draft. It's really good in draft.
Yes.
It's amazing because it's a
agree with you.
huge body
Yes.
in draft.
Yes. But other than that, it's just, it's not there.
There he is. Good old feather drifting downriver. So we definitely also need to look at, when we're doing our resources, we didn't do this yet, but we want more Sapphire resources because of Peak and because we're playing a Sapphire champion. So we want to be a little bit skewed in that direction. So we'll go ahead and count up all of our icons here and then kind of get a good ratio going. So we'll start with the wild ones. So we've got 2. There's another 4. That makes 6. Another 4 times 2. That's 8 plus 6 would make it 14. 15, 16, 18. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So there's 24 resources. I just like to throw this in chat because otherwise I forget. 24 wild resources there. And now, of course, again, I'm counting the icons to get a ratio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yes, the natives are getting restless. I think I was at 18. 19, 21.
Yeah, you were at 18.
24, 25. So 25. So actually, it's really close. We actually did an amazingly, like almost a too good job with this deck. I almost would err on the side of throwing another Sapphire card in here so I could justify changing this ratio to like something like 11 Sapphire and 9 Wild.
I would agree with you because we got Chlorophyllia. So that's why I'd agree with you.
Right. I mean, the big thing we're looking at is we have a lot of dual shards, but we do have the Howling Brave, which will help us get there for Wild. Right now, I think that this is right, but you could also put it back to the 10 and 10. You could also run some more Sapphire cards, so that way you could skew your resources that way a little bit more. Maybe play that Countermagic that we decided not to play, that extra 1 Countermagic. But other than that, I think... Go ahead.
So to answer Grum's question over there in chat, they actually have it misnamed, it looks like, in the program there. The Mirror Knight is the Mentalist, according to the card text. So that Mirror Knight is the Cerulean Mentalist.
Okay, well, then yes, that is what we wanted. We wanted the Inspirability off of this Grum.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. It is indeed the same card as my dog is getting restless as well.
Yeah, everybody's getting restless. The natives are restless.
Quick note on when you're counting the dots there. I don't know if you noticed, but they actually did fix the stats thing for your decks inside the Hex client. Have you looked at that recently?
I did not look at it.
Yeah,
if you click on the little, that's a really good thing to help people count up stuff and do some of this.
It gives you a whole bunch of percentages on how many threshold you got and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely a good tool to use.
I'm not actually filtering at all right now, Grum. I turned off all my filtering. Actually, was I filtering over here? Oh, I was filtering PvP, not Alpha. Yeah. So that's probably what did it. There you go. So I will actually, let's just go ahead and fix that right now. So let's go ahead and filter.
What did it take out?
Well, the Mirror Knight needs to be whatever it is. Mentalist.
Oh, so they are 2 different cards. Okay.
No, it's the same card. It got named. The actual card is this. The old card was the other one. So that's what happened.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and put it in there, so that way when people look at this deck, they're not like, huh? What's this Mirror Knight? That doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay.
So just to help everybody out, we want to make sure everybody's getting helped.
On the same page.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
And it sounds like it's about time for me to put the kids to bed and tell them stories. So we'll go ahead and just wrap things up by going over what we talked about today, because that's what good orators do. So tonight we talked about Froatsylvania's Shardcast, and what a great job he's doing out there. He also went over some good stuff with that to make sure that you knew what you need to do to get on his next Shardcast if you're getting into the community and you want to get on that. We also talked about some of the Hex news with the forum moderators that they're looking for, and then some of the different ways that they go about their business and do things generally. And then also they added on that great new form for when we're doing all of our bug reporting. We talked about the Hex TCG Procast, basically turning into a podcast, and they're looking for votes on that, or names in general. I think you can post names below, and maybe that will be another thing. But they've got 4 different names to pick from, and if you don't like those, then make a post at the bottom, I guess. And then we went over our deck doctor, and I think it turned out pretty well. We went ahead and made a Sapphire ramp bouncing type of deck. And so I will try to get a good game or two with this this weekend, so that way I have it recorded. And then you guys can see me play it and make fun of me profusely for playing such a silly looking deck. And other than that, I'll just let Froats say a quick word. Go ahead and plug all of his stuff, and then I will sign you guys out.
Fair enough. Now, I want to first off thank you for having me on the show. Really appreciate it. As I said, for those of you who joined late, Aaron Squire was my very first Shardcast, so this is a big thing. I'm going to put my my Twitter, my YouTube link to the Shardcast channel. Again, if you want to be featured in Shardcast, just hit me up on Twitter, leave me a message on the Shardcast channel, and I'll be more happy to feature you.
All right, well, that's good times, and this is Aaron Squire and Froats saying God bless you and your families, and try not to rage too much out there.